Hi, welcome. It's time for a comment from me on the state of things going on this weekend, especially concerning Iran and peace through strength. My name is Susan Maud Buchser-Lochocki. I'm a past presidential candidate and a current candidate for House of Delegates here in West Virginia from the District 77. And I'm a concerned citizen, a concerned U.S. citizen and world citizen. And growing up, I heard that phrase a lot, being raised in the military by an Air Force officer. And peace through strength is a great concept. It's showing you have strength, keeping a fit and educated military that is up to date using modern technology to protect its land. And that's the concept behind it. And I suppose in the U.S.'s case, it's to protect its friends. And yesterday, bombing began again by the U.S. and Israel of Iran. And we heard today that the Ayatollah Khomeini has been killed. And it was confirmed by sources inside of Iran. For the longest time, many people have wanted this event to happen. It's never good when somebody dies, but some people won't stop abusing others. And sometimes force and killing is necessary. We don't want to do it all the time everywhere, but sometimes it is necessary. For me, personally, I see it as a good thing that the women in Iran have a chance at freedom now. Their main religious leader has been removed, and he had power over the country and had truthfully hostilely taken over the country. But we can argue that point because, the Shah was maybe not the best thing for the country either. But now the people have a chance to rise and speak and be their own voices and start really being their own country and removing church from state. So Iran is a good example of what a fanatical religious organization can do to a country. And so it can be used as a jumping off point to notice that sometimes religions take themselves too seriously and their rules and regulations, and they force them upon people who don't want them. So we can learn so much from what's happening right now. It's breathtaking. But let's focus back on the concept of peace through strength. So that was our motto for a long time here in the U.S. We were even a neutral country at one point over 100 years ago. And then World War I happened and we got involved, and then we were no longer neutral. And that's when also the rise of Zionism started, and religious fever in the U.S. and other countries began. That was also the breakdown of the Ottoman Empire, which was a Islam-based empire. And so, as you and I live, history happens. And every event can take us further into a more peaceful and equal future, or it can take us backwards. So we do have to always be on guard when these big moments happen. So, peace through strength, for me, means taking care of your own people, your own infrastructure, making sure that the people have what they need, the tools they need to be strong, live intelligently, and enjoy life. And sticking up for your neighbors. So, with that said, with the death of Khomeini, we now have the biggest voice in that region for being pro-Palestinian, and Palestine is now gone. So we want to keep our eyes on Gaza and Palestine and the Palestinians. I am a voice for them, and many others are too. So let's not forget that. I am not pro-abusing women and forcing them into second-class citizen status. And that's the other part of what the Ayatollah was about. And that part I did not agree with him at all. And so the independent woman in me is happy for the future of women in Iran at the moment. They have a chance. And then further with peace through strength is, for the longest time, the U.S. has been seen and asked and promoted, and then corporations got involved to make us this way. Whoops, sorry. We've got a little mouse in the house. He was shocking me, making some noise, but anyway, he'll do what he's going to do. Let me get my thoughts back together for a second. So, we can see this also in two different ways. So the U.S. has been asked to be the police of the world for the longest time, to be the backbone behind the UN and NATO and all these different things. And over my platform pieces throughout, since 2019, when I began running for president, I've spoken about the fact of peace through strength, and also spoken about the fact that we should not be the police of the world. And it's time to share the obligation of taking care of the world together. The U.S. is not the only one who is capable of doing this. And it's time to ask these rich countries that are in Europe and in other places to step up and do their fair share. And President Trump has heard me. He's heard my battle cry, and he's picked it up himself, which I'm really thrilled. Look, I would really have loved to have brought this to the world. But as a woman, it probably wouldn't be possible. I'd probably already be locked up if I was trying to do any of this. So he stepped forward, and he's putting himself out there to bring you my platform concepts. And this is one of them. We are not and should not be the police of the world, period. We should not be. And so, with that in mind, other countries need to step up and start doing their fair share of taking care of the planet and their neighbors and their friends. We should not have to go in every time there's an emergency or a dictator that needs to be removed. And, sadly, a lot of the times the people can't do it themselves. Whether it's a religious concept, or whether they're just not strong enough, or the dictator is just overwhelmingly powerful, there's that. So we need other countries to look and learn and do and step up. Be your own heroes. Take care of your neighbors. And be a part of the world. Anybody can sit behind a desk and say, oh, I don't like the way things are. But that's not going to change things. You actually have to get involved. So there's that. Right now, he's showing the world that this is acceptable because the world sees the U.S. as the police of the world. And so if you don't want to see us as the police of the world, you need to tell us that, and then you need to step up and police your own neighborhood. I think that's the best way of putting that. So, is it what the world wants, that the U.S. is the police of the world? That's also the question he's posing to the rest of the world. What do you want from us? Do you want us to police, or do you not want us to police? And if you don't want us to police, then step up and take care. Now, as you know, in my latest concept of world unity in diversity is to separate the planet into sort of 6 or 7 districts, or regions, is what I was using. And there's like one dominant country in that region that will take the lead, at least temporarily, and be the representative from that area. And then when everybody comes together, then we can talk about world issues. Because having the UN the way it is, it's just a bulky mess and it's very expensive. And so we can move away from the UN concept. It's not working. And the UN is not really promoting peace. They have their own agenda. Sadly, they've got a lot of Zionists in their system who are out to dominate and take over the planet in many different ways and to keep certain areas poor. So the UN is not the leadership that it might have once been, but actually at the time when it was a starting organization, it had way too much power and overstepped so many bounds. It just, yeah. So it's time to set up this board of peace. And I don't know if exactly all the people involved are the necessary ones. We need still places like China and other organizations in it as well. And I haven't kept up to pace with what's in it, but we have that. So getting back to peace through strength and national strength, all countries should focus on their own people and their neighbors and make sure that we're all working together and strong. So that is 100% the most important thing we can take from this. But the last thing that we should also think about is separation of church and state, separation of church or religion and government. And the U.S. needs to look at ourselves in that light too. We have a lot of religious people in power, and some of them are bringing their religious beliefs and enforcing that on the rest of us. So this is, again, something that needs to be worked out in the U.S. as well in a land like Iran. And then, so, do we have the right, did he have the right to do what he did? Well, technically, from another standpoint, from the religious standpoint, he does. So our country was founded on the doctrine of discovery. And that's a document or a concept that was handed down from Catholicism and Christianity, and it's still deep in all Christians, that we have this right to dominate. And, our religion is better than yours and all sorts of things. And that is also sort of the founding of the UN. It's Zionism at its heart. Zionism. So with that in mind, with the Pope declaring this many centuries ago, that's why Christopher Columbus even set sail, was because this doctrine of discovery concept and spreading Christianity to the savages got started in the first place. So with Iran, or with the U.S. working together with Israel to attack Iran, is again the Zionist activity going on. And there is a question of, is that acceptable? Is that too far? Is it... Or we need to keep an eye on what's going on, because in my opinion, Israel shouldn't even exist. I don't mean them bad things. I just think the Israelis, or the people who claim that they're Israelis or living in Israel, are actually living in Palestine. And I think the UN did a bad thing back in 1947. And my own president at the time, I wasn't alive, but my own president, Truman, he gave approval to what the UN was proposing. And now we have this country called Israel, and there's been hate in the country ever since. But the real point is that they, right in front of everybody's eyes, they just stole land from one country and gave it to another. And again, it's this Christian Israel concept. And the Israelis, so Jews, claim that they are the chosen people and that the rest of us aren't. And so they have created this Christianity, Zionism, a mixture of Christian and Jews of certain types, to push their agenda of creating this state of Israel, bringing it back to the Holy Land, and then also expanding it. So this is, I hope, not the expansion part. I hope the real reason was to separate religion from country and separate and free the women of the country. I hope that that's the purpose behind this. But if the purpose is to take over yet another land and turn it Christian, I don't know. But as we are living history and these monumental moments come up, we have choices that need to be made, and they need to be made in a very quick way. So I'm hoping that the people who are in a position of making decision makes the right choice. Let's keep women free and educated, and let's work on our countries. So Iran is filled with amazing art and culture that has nothing to do with Islam, and that it has everything to do with Persia. And so we need to also look into that and support the true Iranian people as much as we can. Now, ultimately, the goal is peace through strength and unity in diversity. And I believe that this is where President Trump is going with all of this. I think he's gotten on board of my Smile for Peace project and is moving the country and the world towards that. But we do have to always keep an eye open and be ready to act if things change in a different direction. So that is this special report on the things that are happening in Iran right now. And I am hopeful that this is about peace and unity and diversity. And so let's keep going and keep a good eye and work on ourselves and our own countries about being unifying but yet diverse. Yeah. Okay, I don't think I can say more. Thank you for listening. And again, this is my opinion on the current activities happening in the Middle East at this moment. Thanks for stopping by. I wish you peace.